this is the actual property that you had purchased 10 years ago in October 6, 2015. For those of you listening and the podcast, it's just a regular looking house, right? Like nothing special here. It's a JWB widget, single family home. Purchase date of 10/6/2015, sold 7/31/2024. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,151 square foot house. You bought it for $143,000 10 years ago. God, I wish I could do that right now. And you sold it for $352,000. You owned it for 8.8 years. Mm-hmm. So we talk a lot about the 5 profit centers, right? And we like to lay them out in this pie chart, right? So 5 profit centers being net rental income, how much your property pays you pays you over time in cash, minus expenses, your tax savings, self-explanatory. Principal pay down, right? How much your resident has paid down the loan for you. Home price appreciation, which, spoiler, it's the biggest piece of the pie. And then inflation hedging, right? So kind of like how much you are not losing or gaining against inflation. And when we break this one out, we see what we always see, the Pac-Man principle. We see that home price appreciation here in green makes up the majority of the pie, and everything else is just the mouth of the Pac-Man. First question here, GC, why is principal pay down 0?
That's a really good question. So that goes along with the debt. So the debt that we chose to put on this property was actually interest-only payments, mm-hmm. which means that it does not pay down the principal. Mm-hmm. So the debt is actually, the principal pay down is actually 0 because of the type of loan.
Got it. So this is interest-only. I guess you would also be having, oh no, never mind. I was going to get too smart for myself here. Next thing I see here is average home price appreciation of 8% per year. Normally we talk about 5% per year here in Jacksonville. How come this is 8%?
Well, that's what the market did. So we always underpromise. We aim to underpromise and overdeliver. And when we think about the projections that we use as far as what did we assume home price appreciation would be each year, roughly 9 years ago when we bought this property, we didn't put in our numbers 8%, mm-hmm. right? We would have assumed something roughly around 4.5% at that time. Mm-hmm. So this is just an example of when you buy in a market where population and median incomes are growing and going up, you're setting yourself up to underpromise and overdeliver to yourself, and you're doing it in the profit center that has the biggest impact for you. And so that's what you've seen here. There's a direct relationship here between 8% home price appreciation each year. That's almost double what we would have expected. And then the Pac-Man principle, even, as you can see here, normally you have between 60 to 80% of your total wealth pie mm-hmm. driven by home price appreciation. Mm-hmm. And that's when you have normal home price appreciation. Well, when you underpromise and overdeliver for yourself and you have more home price appreciation because you chose the right market, well, that Pac-Man gets larger. You can see here that roughly 91% of our returns came from home price appreciation on this property.
Got it. And for a friend that's listening to the podcast, I haven't really said this yet, but basically in just under 9 years, this rental property generated $164,000 plus in profits from a total acquisition and liquidation costs of $25,000. That number of acquisition costs of $25,000, Jag is calling it out in the chat. Oh man, I would love that too, right? That's that similar psychology of wish I could have bought something for $130,000 or
no. I totally understand where you're going, Jag is going. So let me explain it a little bit more. When I'm saying acquisition and liquidation cost, that's mm-hmm. not the initial investment.
Oh, okay.
That is not the initial investment.
Okay. So those are fees for when you bought it and fees for when you sold it.
Exactly.
Got it.
So that is your closing costs, your selling, holding, and closing costs. You can think of things like real estate commissions when you sell the property or closing costs and things of that nature. So probably could have been a little clearer on that, mm-hmm. but those are the costs that come along with buying and selling the asset.
Adam Coletta is asking, are the interest payments included in the total acquisition and liquidation cost? I would assume that that's covered in net rental income, right?
Exactly.
Okay, explain that.
Yeah, to calculate your net rental income, you take your gross rental income. And I happen to remember this because I put all the numbers together on it, right? We generated about $131,000 in gross rental income over these 9 years on mm-hmm. this asset. Well, we had about $118,000 in costs that come along with that. So think of things like interest payments, which was the question right there, mm-hmm. rental expenses,
Yeah.
maintenance costs.
Marty Quinn asked about maintenance costs. So
Yes.
maintenance costs is in there.
All included there, right? Property taxes, insurance costs, all of those things. And all of these things are laid out for all of you when you make investment decisions to buy an asset. Well, that's how it all shook out. And, of course, these are built to be cash flow positive. So you take the gross, you minus the expenses that come along with it. Your net rental income is that roughly $13,000 there.
Got it. So like we're just looking at the 5 profit centers. A little bit less than 10 years later, you made 164K in profits, breaks down as about 13K in net rental income, almost 4K in tax savings, no principal pay down because it's an interest only loan. You made a staggering $173,000 in home price appreciation to a total portfolio returns of $164,000 once you take out the acquisition cost and the liquidation cost.